welcome, Drew, and welcome, Adam.
Hello, hello.
Whoa.
All right.
All
So
right.
last panel or last discussion of the evening. So we'll
Winnie.
close it out with PAC Global.
How are you
All
guys
right.
doing?
Great, great.
Fantastic, Drew. How are you?
I'm doing
We're,
good.
we're at
Thank you.
exactly 11 hours now live. So
Yeah,
that's
we've been up for some time, so this should be the best stream of the day to close it out. And, if you wouldn't mind, Drew, if I'll take a little bit of your time and just say I'd like to thank for everybody that like to say thank you for everybody that participated today, watched, and is still here with us, as well as participants in the hackathon that's going on. I think everybody did a wonderful job on putting this thing together for Friday here, and COVID sucks for most people. You're not allowed to go out and do things, and you don't have a lot of liberties right now that I think we all took for granted pre-COVID. But I will say, pretty awesome event in general. I had a lot of fun, watched a lot of interesting people. I think also, like, keeping in mind what we did throughout the whole day, it's I've learned some stuff from it. Doing these virtual events, sometimes you learn things, and there's a lot to take away, including from the blockchain center's perspective, and how to keep things upbeat, how to keep things moving. I think it's really important that we touch base and make sure everything's good. So, Drew, I don't know if you had slides planned, or if you wanted to just chat about what your project is and everything you're doing, but I'm more than open to do both. It's completely up to you. Would you prefer
I was
going in?
I'm just able to open chat about everything. So I don't have any slides planned, but able to open chat about PAC Global and what we've been doing and what we plan to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So, PAC Global been around for a minute. When do you guys first launch? Let's start about that. Start there.
Well, the PAC Global chain, believe it or not, actually goes back all the way to 2013. So it's actually been around for quite a while. There's been a lot of changes to the core code, just changing with the community, changing with the wind as far as what we believed was the best route to go. Primarily the battle between POW or POS. Ultimately, where we've come to is as a group, as a community, and as a network, it's been proven that POS has been better for us as a project. Not necessarily the case for everyone, but that's fine. That's just the way our network has been built so far, and we're pretty happy about that. But yeah, it's been a long journey from 2013 to now. I actually wasn't part of the journey the entire time, but that's the beauty of a community project. You bring in people along the way that start bringing things to a project and making it better. So where we're at right now, we're pretty happy with our network and how far it's grown.
so I
I
found
think I
back.
think it's incredible that you guys have been around that long, and I really want to say, I tip my hat to people doing independent chain projects, because they require a significant more amount of complexity than an ERC20 token does, and to maintain the network and nodes and people that are part of it, for all of those years, I will say, is a significant achievement. And you look at every other chain that started in that year, and you guys are, one of the few out there that is still maintaining and running well, doing innovative things and trying to push forward. I've spoken with you previously, Drew, and I think it's incredible. I think in general, I wish that there was more of this traditional sentiment out there, that you have the right to make your own currency, you have the right to manipulate things in the way that you want and set your own rules for what you're trying to accomplish. And it's really an incredible thing, and it can't be understated how impressive that is. I think we had somebody else getting in here. Justin, is that where you're trying to pay homage to?
I think the Lord David Gokhshtein just joined, and
Back.
yeah.
I'd like to listen
Hey David, how
to
you doing?
what's going on, Drew. Nice to meet you.
Some enthusiasm with that. Welcome.
But I agree with you, Adam. I think it's a major expression of freedom that this space has really proven to a lot of developers, not only just lifting that veil of needing to follow a set guidelines or set rules or set code. Like this industry, this community has really opened up a lot of freedom for a lot of people, and I think that's one thing that attracts a lot of new individuals.
Yeah, and kind of going past the currency aspect, like, you know, building your own culture, building your own thing, you know, in general, and sustaining it is a big part of that too. So, you know, hats off, and definitely would like to touch on some things as far as, you know, you said your proof of stake is that's basically the route that you guys all went, correct? Not
Yeah,
DPoS, just straight
yeah.
POS, or?
So basically, our core code was based off of Dash. So that's something that we initially adopted. We were a big fan of the idea of masternodes, and everyone was able to contribute to a network and securing it, providing resources from a server to be able to hold a full copy of the chain, et cetera, et cetera. And Dash has done a great job of that, set a good example of that, constantly improving their code. Recently, within the last year, they did something to focus in on 51% attacks that were really affecting a lot of projects. And so we followed Dash a lot in their technological achievements and the things that they do. But as far as POW and POS using miners, it just wasn't something that was being fully supported by our projects, but it's also by a lot of different projects that unfortunately may not be as financially intriguing as mining Bitcoin or et cetera. So it's something that we realized that POS was a lot more community friendly for those that maybe not be able to contribute hash power to a chain. So that's one way that we found a way that our chain was able to move forward at a more average pace. But one of the things that we're really focusing on, and what we have been focusing on for years and years, was growing the network and growing these nodes. And the reason for that is I spoke of Dash and what they use their nodes for as far as growing their network as a alternative financial network. But that's not something that really we wanted to go into the competition of, because there's no reason to. I mean, there's so many different projects out there that are already succeeding. There's no reason to, for us at least, for us to continue down that path. So we looked into different alternative ways or use cases that this network can be used for. And to be honest, the list is endless. The very beginning of just having a large decentralized network is something that a lot of projects struggle to achieve in the first place. And that's something that PAC Global really has outperformed a lot of different networks. Over 10,000 active nodes. I believe it's actually 11,000 now. But compared across the industry, a blockchain, that's right up there with the leaders. So that's something that we wanted to build on top of and allow in the future other projects to also maybe link into our network and build on top of, because having that core infrastructure is vital for the projects that we're building now, such as IPFS. We've been building some projects using IPFS as infrastructure for data storage in a decentralized way. But what a great way to grow that network immediately by tapping into the PAC Global network that already has 11,000 nodes globally decentralized. So it's a great way for us to start growing that network, along with providing use cases that IPFS is better at contributing than typical blockchain.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a second, right? So the way that I view blockchain, and kind of the perspective that I come from is, you know, if you kind of rewind the clock a little bit, you're dealing with something like BitTorrent, you're dealing with some peer-to-peer networks that were like not necessarily currencies, but, you know, provided infrastructure, meaning that you had peer-to-peer types of transactions with downloading files, sending different things, right? And I'm not going to get too much into that, but why don't we touch on this IPFS thing, because you mentioned it previously. Um, is so what is a I've got some echo in here. I don't know if that's me, but all right. Let's touch on that for a second. So IPFS is a big, really hot topic. You can store files, you can do all this stuff. So what is PAC Global doing right now? What are the initiatives that you guys are trying to integrate? And like, what direction are you going with that? Because with proof of stake, you know, you got pretty rapid transactions. You got, you know, all these advantages that you have over a proof of work type system. Now, there are some drawbacks, but one of the advantages you have is being able to do high volume and being able to integrate something like IPFS and have it make sense, right? So how does that play into what you're currently doing? Like, what is your IPFS, I guess, like product called? Like, how do you work with it? And what does that accomplish, I guess, from your perspective and IPFS, all that?
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways that we initially, when we started looking into IPFS, of what we wanted to tackle. Just looking at IPFS straight at the core of it, it's simply just a database, and it's as decentralized as you want it to be. But with that being said, it gives us a couple different routes of what we want to build. There's obviously the thought process behind our developers and products that we want to release in the future, that we want them to be completely public, open to anyone to use. But that it starts opening questions and doors as far as security, what is being stored on a decentralized database, and a lot of the same questions that would come up as far as, what is networks such as Bitcoin being used to pay for, or that topic, stuff. So when it comes to storing data, it's extremely important that we pay attention to that, because there's all sorts of things that could be stored on something if it's not properly checked and properly made secure. So there's that we've been constantly like contemplating. So that's why we decided then, instead of going down that route and answering those questions now, because that can take a while to figure out all the way, it's a lot easier for us to start showing what IPFS can do as a database for private network needs, such as the medical field. That's something that we immediately dove into. We started acquiring some partners in the medical field. Radiologics is one partner that we have been in line with for over a year now, testing our network and building out layers of our IPFS network that they would then use on their side of things as a decentralized database to store things such as CAT scans, X-rays, et cetera, and their own marketplace and own products that they're going to need data storage for. So that's what we're focusing on, to first, show that this network's built, which can be openly seen on the network with how many nodes are attached, and then also show proper use case of how this can actually be used in an enterprise situation, other than building something and hoping, people use it, or hoping the public uses it. That's something that we are going to do, obviously, because we want the public and the community support in use cases and products that we release. But our focus has been primarily to show that this network can be used in a real life situation, other than just the typical minds of people on Twitter saying that blockchain is only for those that care. It's something that, people need to know that can be used, and it should be used. And
I
eventually, in the future of things, on how the internet runs now, storage is going to need to be stored in a different way. I mean, the hot topics right now are servers connected directly to the government being hacked. I mean, that's something that, being too central, causes problems in every industry, not just, government, not just blockchain, not just big tech, Twitter, et cetera. Everything needs to advance into a better system.
very much so. David, looks like you had some thoughts on that. I wanted to. You're nodding pretty vigorously. No.
Drew's stating facts. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Like, I don't even. I'll be repetitive if I repeat it, but
Okay.
that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, so medical's like the unbidden piece of the apple that I think a lot of people think can't be done, or there's too much red tape, or anything in between, HIPAA, you name it, right? So one of the interesting things about that is, like, working in I guess tech all these years, is like you kind of look at like what the standards are for HIPAA, and a lot of all these this red tape that they put around this whole industry, right? And they do it a lot of reasons to like keep people out. But like, if you look at blockchain standards for just the way that it's set up, it is like far and beyond the necessary requirements for HIPAA or anything else. The encryption levels, everything, all the way down. So I think it's kind of like a misnomer to state that like this is an undisruptible field and it's going to stay the same way it is. So it's really interesting that you're going for that. I also think that when you explore kind of like the possibilities with high transaction volumes, everything, like all the benefits that Dash and then you guys have as a fork, and like coming down and like figuring out, I think there's a lot of potential there. I also think there's more potential too, having somebody like you charge forward, try to push different new initiatives forward and put them in front of the community and trying to figure it out. And that's something that's missing throughout crypto. It's like, hey, look, just because we're decentralized doesn't mean you don't have a charging force behind it that's pushing every day to make sure that it's innovative and improving and has all these benefits. So really interesting stuff there. I'd like to shift to Justin here and have him ask a couple questions about like strategic plans, marketing, all this other stuff that I know really interests Justin and wakes him up in the morning. And would love
Yeah,
to hear your thoughts on it.
or at night. Sure. Yeah, I noticed there was something involving this edible forest charity that you have with Syntropic Agroforestry.
So, yeah, I can
If you
elaborate
could
that on a little bit.
maybe elaborate on it.
So that's our charity division of PAC Global. PAC Agro LLC is a charity division of PAC Global, and what we focus on is there's a lot of agroforestry initiatives taking place in South America, Venezuela, or areas surrounding, and what they're trying to do is involve the real life communities of these areas and teaching them different ways and how they can, provide for themselves when it comes to food and produce and et cetera. So that's something that has been taking place, being spearheaded by a team member of ours, Robin. He would be able to go in so much more detail than I can. He spearheads that front. But that's something that's really been at the core of PAC for a long time, is trying to focus on charity. And the good thing about doing that with a blockchain product or blockchain network is it's global. So it can impact anywhere if there's a focus point on it. So it's something that we've constantly been trying to grow. As you can see with that slide you just put up right there, a lot of different partners have been grown over the years. We plan to add some more. And actually, we just announced one recently if David wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, we were extremely happy to finally lock down a partnership with the Manny Pacquiao Foundation. Extremely excited to be working with them, obviously for a good cause, to go ahead and help people. I'm big on charity.
Just drop that in the stream, the real sly, like Manny Pacquiao, like the boxer Manny Pacquiao, like big time Manny Pacquiao. All right.
Yeah, you know what it is, like, we're gonna continue to work. We're gonna continue to push forward. We have Drew. We have a bunch of amazing devs on the team. We're gonna keep pushing forward. We're gonna create amazing products, and that's basically it. And we will go ahead and be noticed. Like next 2021, as soon as January 1st hits, people will know who we are. Period. That's what I want to say. We are in constant talks with every single body in this space. We're trying to create partnerships, synergy between blockchain projects so we can take it to the next level, period. You're more than welcome to join. If you don't want to, all right, that's cool. But the guys, and I'm not blowing smoke up anybody's ass, you guys already know me. Drew works his ass off daily, along with the devs to create a phenomenal product, which we have coming out, which is called Eon DNA. So watch out for us. Don't sleep on us. I'm telling you.
Absolutely. I think, we've done a panel format the full day, and I hope you guys got some of the initiatives out. So like, let's kind of shift tone a little bit. Let's talk about like the hype. David, you're big time CMO, like, everything. You got all these people everywhere, right? And you love tokens. You love, you got a lot of enthusiasm. I see on stream, you're going out there. Why PAC Global? Like what's going on? What was your like, moment? Why were you like, hey, PAC Global's the thing? And like, what like it's big time. Why?
I spoke to Drew. I'm very blunt. Look, I love this space. I don't think you should, it's kind of like when I talk about people, the Bitcoin maximi, the maxis that just sit back and they're like Bitcoin, nothing else. That analogy is like, drive a Ford Model T and use the crank to start it up. Don't look at the Toyota and Hondas and whatever other vehicles that are out there that actually have push to start and backup cameras. So yes, I love Bitcoin. I hold a lot of Bitcoin, but that doesn't mean you can't look at anything else. I spoke to Drew probably like, what was it, like maybe a year and a half ago to 2 years ago, initially. And then Drew contacted me, or I don't know, we just contacted each other, and he sold me on the project. It made sense, and I came in, and I'm happy that I did. I believe in what Drew's building. I believe in the product, and shout outs to the team. We have one of the most hard working teams. Listen, everybody can say that about our team as well, but our team really works from the charity aspect to the devs.
All right,
to
well,
everyone.
let's not push it. Everybody can't say that about their team. So like, let's not push it. I bet I've seen teams. That's not true.
I know,
I
Oh,
know a
I
lot
get
of
it.
people that
But
wouldn't
I don't
say
know.
it, but you
Their
don't got to be nice here. That's all right.
their
Be
CFO
self-curious.
looks like they rock climb. Is that
you want me to take my
yeah,
CMO? Listen, that picture of me. Look, listen. We wanted to bring a little GQ into PAC. No.
That's why he's in the first row.
yeah, there you
There
go.
you go.
I don't know, but
Um,
you're not hanging off the side of a mountain though. I don't. When are we getting David up on a mountain?
one thing, like I get offers all the time, but Drew is just extremely blunt, and that's what I like when people just don't bullshit and they. If you get demonetized, I'm so sorry. I'll give you the whatever it is,
No, it's okay.
but at the end of the day, when somebody's blowing me, it tells me exactly how it is and what it's going to be. I appreciate that. And again, like the team's phenomenal, the project's really good, and again, I have my sights set on January of 2021 to go ahead and just really get into everybody's ear about, not like I haven't, but or like we haven't done it as a team, but now more so than ever, we're going to be in everybody's ear. Look, we've partnered with Tron, we've partnered with Digibyte. We have others, and we have other things that we're working on. Manny Pacquiao Foundation came out today, working on another foundation. You guys, the whole community will see, and that's where I go back to. If you guys would love to, whoever wants to work with us, we're more than happy to open up our arms. If not, we're just going to move forward, and that's it. We got a phenomenal product coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's like, I have, I think, a significant amount more respect to like, people that have been working on something for a long time, trying to see the vision get complete, rather than something flash in the pan, pickle finance, whatever, grocery store,
Exactly.
nonsense. You always talk about,
Influence.
these things aren't going to last forever is the reality. You might get one out of 200, some happens, but
Can I ask
the
you a question, Adam? Adam, can I ask you
Yeah.
a real question?
Sure.
Why doesn't a project like PAC Global, right? Since we're talking about our project, and we'll talk about it and yap about it, but a project like ours that has, I'm not blowing smoke up, Drew's ass, but he's leading a project that they literally have been working on for 2 years in terms of developing, this product. Why doesn't it get the attention that it deserves? Instead, you have pickle, orange, apple, all these vegetables and fruits getting attention and then pulling rugs on people, yet a real working project like ours, which is going to protect your data, okay, which will give you more storage, make things run faster, it gets overlooked. But no. 2021 ain't nobody overlooking us. I'm telling you right now, you can record this, snapshot it, replay it for everybody. Nobody's overlooking us.
Yeah, I think it's David, to echo your sentiment, right? When good devs are working on good projects, right? That's exactly what you get. You get, the long, hard effort that goes into, making sure that you're doing code right, doing everything. It's less glamorous, but I think in the long term, in the longevity of a project, that's the most important thing. I mean, you can, there's definite examples of good projects that have had everything aligned, that were VC backed, and they get, the top guys from Stanford, everything else, they put them in place, they build it, but then there's no flavor, right? So we all know who these projects are. Like, I'm not going to get too much into it, but you got your, they got the suit up, yeah, they're going to win. They got the, the deck stacked. They're going to figure it out. They will, for sure. But then, you get the, you get the Rudies, right? The ones that, out of everybody, nobody ever picked that guy, but the guy puts in the hours and he does everything right. And at the end of the day, he ends up, accomplishing the goal. And, your goal as a project might not be the same as somebody else's goal for your project. And I've worked with enough of them to know, right? If you're trying to build a good product, well, that might not fit with the narrative of people that are just trying to go out there and chill it and do everything else, which is kind of a significant issue, right? Particularly when you're talking about this space, like the early adopter crowd that are just trying to throw in 100 bands down on something and just, watch it ride. And they, they're more in it for the adrenaline. I think that what you do end up getting out of the other side of things is, you take a company like Citrix, right? I used to work there. Not super glamorous, but they built a sales team. They had products in healthcare, and they built them out forever, and they made shit tons of money over a long period of time because they had longevity and they had a sustainable business model, and they built. Nobody talks about how sexy Citrix is in the grand scheme of things, and I like, oh, it's whatever, but top healthcare company in the world, 90% of all data touching their servers, like, it's because they have good products and they do make money and it is sustainable and most of the world relies on it, but it might not have this flash in the pan mentality. I think that happy spot in crypto is trying to partner with somebody like you, David, where you have the influence, the mouthpiece, and you can get the brand out there and people can talk about it and talk about how good of a product they're actually working on. And then they deliver time after time, year after year. And then eventually what you see is like some kind of crazy growth coefficient. One thing I will say is we're not even touching the mass market yet, not even close. So like, these things that are blowing up now, like just as easy as they blow up, they can definitely get pulled back out of it. And if you don't have the tech for it, that's something that's happened to every coin under the sun. And I mean, you can look back. So I don't even think it's a bad thing that like, you're not Pickle, that's great. Actually, you don't want to be Pickle because as easy as it came is as easy as you can lose. And it's just a reality of the space that we're in right now. It's less about innovation. I think most people would sell whatever they're holding in a heartbeat, but it's when you get those community members that really drive partnerships, real world adoption, everything else that's long, sustainable run that makes you a good company, in my opinion. And this is just looking on. There's all kinds of things that can be said to that, but I don't think it's necessarily like you're overlooked or whatever else. It's just like, do you want, a ridiculous amount of people rushing in just because they want to see it go to $1?
No,
versus...
you know what? I don't really care about the Pickle crowd, or personally, no disrespect. I don't care. I personally don't care about the DeFi space that created a token 5 minutes ago and named it after something at Costco's. I don't think we're looking for that. I'm sure Drew can elaborate. Like, look, we just had a partnership with, RD. I mean, like, for us, that's huge. I think it's probably the most underrated, partnership that we've made, right, Drew? I mean, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, the partnerships that we go after or the projects that we want to try and get involved in, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're gonna turn around and prove right then and there, like, oh, this is how networks can work together, and that's not our goal when we approach these different partnerships. We want to show, what our project is first off, without anything, like what we are and what our network is, and then additionally, like for instance, when we were talking to Tron and Digibyte, it's what our network can provide. It's one of those things that, this is what we can do now, but you have your development team and your project and your vision. We have our project and our vision. If we put our networks together, we can come up with something special that maybe not have been thought of in the first place. I mean, that's the whole point of what this space was. I mean, you had so many different minds coming together, creating the projects that you see now that we're talking about. So it's one of those things that not only does it the community, is your community going to grow and interest different minds, and maybe they can then give input in the direction that your project goes. But I got so tired of the mentality in 2017 and then even in 2018 where every project was a competition. And that's not what grew this space, where everyone is a competition. So I think it slowly went back to where people were, paying attention to different projects and just recognizing accomplishments of what they were doing. And I think that's why, PAC Global has grown over the last year, just in the information that's been getting out and shared by our community members, or through the efforts of David and our marketing team. And that's our goal is, we want different projects to see each other and to show what each other can do.
Absolutely. And I think that touches on like an overriding theme, which is like why you guys chose like Radiologics as a partner, to try and really experiment and see what you can do together, right?
Well, absolutely. I mean, 99% of the people that I notice when they're talking about cryptocurrency, the first thing that they're thinking about is transfer of value, money. Bitcoin is worth, whatever it's worth, and that it has money value tied to it. Projects like PAC, projects like anything, if it's trading just, on an exchange, there's going to be a value to it. But that's always the first thing everyone thinks of, is that's, transactions for monetary reasons. Well, we want people to realize that blockchain technology isn't just that. You can build so many different things other than just for monetary transactions. So radiologics is one of those, avenues where it's not, it's data storage for medical reasons, not, financial tied.
Absolutely. Remittance value versus, the actual power of the blockchain, the power of the nodes, power of everything that you were talking about previously is, definitely something that needs to be considered and maybe overlooked from time to time, David. But I'll tell you what, when I'm, evaluating a project or whatever it might be, definitely some of the metrics that I look at personally are, how many nodes do they have? How many this do they have? Like, just giving a deep dive and getting a good sample of everything that they're doing. So very interesting.
And there goes the stats.
Yeah, there's the stats on the nodes you asked for.
I always say, like, numbers don't lie, people do.
Yeah.
So, when we say something, like, we're legit about it. We don't just make up stuff. And that's, again, like, you guys asked me what made me come to PAC. It's just like everything's straightforward. It's like, here it goes, here it is. And anybody, like, again, like, who looks at our project and actually, combs through everything and does their research, they'll understand why it's special. Yeah, and obviously people who are watching right now, they're gonna say, well, you're a part of the project. Yes, I'm a part of the project, but there's a reason why I came and I was drawn to this project. I could have gone anywhere else. I'm not gonna name names because that would be, wouldn't be right, but I could have gone anywhere else, but I chose to come here. And that's it. I believe that Drew is, is one of the most talented people in this space. And I'm not just saying that because he's on the program. So
I appreciate that, David. One thing that I think gets overlooked in when talking about networks, and when you're showing over those statistics right there, and kind of on the topic of why things may or may not get overlooked, that's one of the problems that I wish I'm happy we never had. There's some projects out there that have a great vision and they know exactly what they're building. They know exactly what it is from day one. But the problem with it being a decentralized network is getting that decentralized support. And sometimes that right there is what causes projects to stall for a long period of time or just not grow node wise. I mean, there's a lot of projects out there that I won't name, but they have great ideas and great things already built and products built, but just not broadly supported by a big network, which is going to be needed if it's going to actually be used in a wide scale scenario. So that's one thing that I'm happy we never had to face that problem. Our price might not be what we want it to be or where we think it should be or recognize as much as we want, but our network is far and beyond what I don't have to worry about that as a problem, needing that we need to expand it, we need to grow it right now. We're probably more expanded than we need. Well, I know we are. We're more expanded than we need to be based off of just our network, transaction volume. It's not incredibly high, but it's built to be able to. And so, we kind of, it's the long road, but we built backwards, and I think it's the right way to go as far as making sure your network's stable to do whatever you're advertising it can do before you say it can, and then if it gets picked up that way and it's not properly supported, you might have failures and it might embarrass yourself. So, it's a problem that I'm happy we didn't have.
Very true. Infrastructure before scalability is important. Like one of the most understated important aspects of crypto, right? Like, can you actually do what you're going to deliver on? You get crucified pretty quickly if you can't. And I just think it's really good that having a big network and trying to accomplish things, trying new things, getting new community members, doing new partnerships, doing all this new stuff is like a real phenomenal thing. And there's not much more I can say than that. It's just it's a really simple metric for success in my mind, is like, do you have sustainability? Have you lasted? Do you have a community? Under promising, over delivering, doing partnerships that make positive change and staying on the forefront of innovation, staying current.
I agree.
For me, it's at the end of the day, one thing that we're real big about, and like Drew talks about this, your data, right? Do you want Google and Apple to own it? or would you like to have full control of it? I mean, like, I want control of my data. Like, I don't want anybody else controlling it and making profits off of it as well. And then, you know, having hacks, you know, what, Google got hacked about a few days ago? Got hacked real good. My information might have been in there. Like, I want to be in control of my data. And again, Drew and the rest of the devs have done a tremendous job in building something that will, for me, it's a game changer for anybody that wants to come in and, you know, control that data, and also at the same time have storage.
100%. I think, you know, I think it's interesting. I'd like for Justin to touch on some other topics too. You know, without hitting bedrock too much and just being in agreement about network and everything else, I think there's probably some other aspects that I haven't seen. Maybe some questions that Justin might have, you know, on some different topics.
Here comes Justin.
More about the masternode network. It says you have 500,000 tokens to make a masternode. How would you go on a little more about the details on creating that and setting one up?
Correct. So basically, this simple explanation of how masternode works is you do need 500,000 PAC as collateral. That needs to be well, locked in your wallet, and that's recognized by the network. And so the network has a built-in POS ban system, which basically is a built-in penalty system. So if a node is connected to a server and they're saying that it's active, they're saying that it's reliable, but the network sends pings to it and it doesn't respond in a proper amount of time, it starts getting a penalty score. And once it reaches a certain amount, that node gets kicked off the network. So it's no longer connected. It's no longer susceptible to receiving the rewards that it would receive if it was performing reliably. And so you need 500,000 PAC to collateralize the node. And with that, the reward cycle is very precise. It's every block rewards a masternode. So the simplest way for one person with one node to figure out, you know, how long it would be for their node to require service to receive a reward is, well, if there's 10,000 nodes, it's going to take 10,000 blocks for yours to get hit. And we hit like 576 blocks a day, 2.5 minute average. So each node is fully responsible for keeping a full copy of all the interactions that happen on the network. So that's very important for not only for all the nodes to stay connected properly and all in sync and everything, but it also gave us the perfect infrastructure for the servers that are going to be needed 24/7 and reliably as well for data storage. So it kind of went hand in hand as far as, you know, these nodes are needed to supply, to provide the PAC Global network for its own basic features, such as private send and instant transactions with the masternode instant send feature and etc. So there's a lot of features that are built in specifically just because of the masternode layer of the blockchain for transactions. But there's also an OCB is what I call it, on-chain budget, built into the PAC Global network. And so essentially what that is every single block for PAC that passes, there's a certain amount of PAC that is allocated towards this OCB or super block that others call it. And what this is every single month it's a pool of coins where if a proposal was made to the network for, let's just say, X amount of tokens to accomplish a development goal, this could be really provided by anyone, but these masternode owners have the right to vote whether or not this proposal is funded by the network. So it's not funded directly by, you know, us as developers. We don't hold these coins. The network holds those coins. And if the masternodes get together and vote for this proposal, then those coins are released. But if they're not, then they're never created and they're never released into circulation. So there's this, you know, give and take of this market that's built inside PAC Global that developers could tap into, really anyone could tap into to expand on the PAC Global network. And if the masternode owners, essentially the network owners, agree with your goal and your vision, they could help you fund, you know, what your initiatives are. But it's just another feature that's built in because of the masternode layers.
Yeah, I think that covered a lot of what I was curious about as far as the way the masternodes work. You know, the only like reference point I have is something like a dash node where it has like a similar governance mechanism
Yeah, it's very similar, if not the same, of how the master nodes, talk to each other, and that core, that part of our base is very similar to Dash.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's definitely important when you have like a masternode program, because it does definitely create, I think, more of a community of people that stay with the longevity of the node instead of just kind of drop off after a while, and they have more say in the project.
Yeah.
I think that's important to have a voice.
And it's one thing that also, I mean, it's helped grow the network, because it's given people the idea of an incentive based, network. As the node is collateralized, your node, while performing, is going to receive rewards at a constant rate. So that's something that people go into, recognizing that. And as we grow, not only radiologics but different products, if someone has a node and they're already receiving, PAC rewards because of that, they can go ahead and take their node and start supporting their next favorite project or their favorite project. And maybe this project doesn't give out dividends, doesn't give out anything for supporting a full node, such as, as an example, Bitcoin. There's no benefit in holding a full node, but it's pretty expensive to do so. So it's one of those ways that, the network's already providing an incentive program that maybe some networks don't, and that could be intriguing for other projects to tap into that network and provide that then.
Yeah, great. Yeah, it looks like someone in our chat was really interested in the on-chain budget that you mentioned earlier. Caleb here. Now, I mean, as far as setting one up, what kind of hardware do you need to run a full node, as far as in that regard?
We do have our basic system requirements that we recommend, but we still do leave it up to the users, own discretion on what they want to provide. Obviously, the network has its own requirements as far as how much disk space is required, how much memory. But basically, essentially, if anyone's knows knowledge of what they're setting up, a $5 server on Vultr is more than capable of hosting the amount of storage needed for a PAC Global masternode. So it's not crazy huge. It's not an expensive thing to do, which is another reason why it's able to expand quickly instead of each node needing $300 worth of resources.
Yeah, I think that's definitely important. Now, I noticed you had an app as well. Does that help monitor the nodes, or is that just a storage wallet?
We have two. So we have a wallet that's just simply called the PAC app. That's a very very user-friendly wallet. We took a lot of our ideas and just references. If you're familiar with the Cash app, how they lay out their UI and very user-friendly. We really liked how clean it was, and so we really used that as a reference point of just how we wanted it to look, but kept all the blockchain stuff behind it. So it was kind of, people don't really know they're using blockchain, but it is, and that's kind of what we wanted to go after. And then we also have some other products that are in the works right now. That one will be focusing on data, but the one that's out right now is just specifically a wallet, clean and easy to use.
Where's most of your user base? Like, are you aware? Is it like a European thing? Is it a US thing? Like, where would you say your primary people are?
It's changed over the years, or maybe one side has been louder or quieter than the other, and it changes. But I know we have a significant user base in Europe, and I know we have a pretty good user base in the USA. We do have our own, well, not ours, but there's our own community like section set up on Discord, Japanese based. So there's folks out there. I mean, it's a lot of here and there. There's nothing that's too like self-focused on. But a lot in South America with all the charity work we've been doing. Even some pockets of communities popping up in Africa as well. So it's not too one-sided here and not over there.
Yeah, and we had a question like, is there any limit to the amount of masternodes you could hold, or is that?
I mean, really,
don't know how you'd regulate that.
I mean, the limit of how many masternodes our network could have, I guess, is just how many. What is 500,000 going to 50 billion? I mean, that's our max supply. But whether or not that happens or not, very unlikely, obviously, because our inflation rate wouldn't obviously make that really possible for all those coins to be combined together. But that essentially would answer the question of how much is possible. There is no limitation on whether or not, you know, that's too many or too less. It's just whether or not that happens, whether or not they get collateralized.
All right, and I think we, we're probably about 15 minutes left, but I guess like, I kind of want to leave the floor open. If there's any points or, topics that maybe I didn't touch on, I have a lot of questions answered. I kind of understand your similarities to, Dash in some aspects, and then I guess like kind of like the vision and mission that you guys are going after, definitely differs. I guess like, the final question that I have would be like, where do you see it going outside of that? Like, what's the next step? Say you have what is it, Yan DNA? Yan,
yeah,
is that what you called it?
Yeah, Yan DNA. That's the product that we're releasing. Actually, one of our developers, his name is Yan, so that's the reason behind that. But the Yan network. Okay, so before we confuse anything, Yan network is what we've called the IPFS network that we've developed. Okay, so that is what the name is. The product that we've been building behind it is called Yan DNA. Taps directly into it. They're just both named after the developer who's put a lot of time and hours into that. But essentially, what I envision for PAC, yeah, I mean, bravo. He is a great developer. But the vision I see for PAC, I mean, as we continue to go towards this IPFS vision as data storage and using PAC as collateral to grow the network, 500,000 PAC needed for one node. For me, it's contradictory for me to also say, okay, go use PAC as transactions too, because I want the network to grow, which means I don't want, I'd rather it not be circulating and being used as transactions. I'd rather it be locked in a node providing storage and resources to the network. So if that were to continue to grow at the pace that it is now, essentially for PAC to be all inclusive in products that we develop and release, there's going to need to be some blockchain decentralized version for payments. Because if we're not going to be promoting PAC as a payment option, even though it probably will be always an option, but we're going to need to start tapping into other networks that are known for being a reliable payment network, or being able to combine those different networks. So for me, long term, I mean, that's something that I don't really outspokenly talk about, but I don't really envision PAC as this massive, million transaction, basically trying to replace Bitcoin as a monetary system network, even though it's built and capable of. That's not the vision I'm going for, and I'm hoping down the line that whatever products that we combined, we start using other networks as means for that, because we're building our network specifically to grow the nodes.
You're going after a utility case, like how can people actually freaking use what I built, which is something that's like missing on a, everybody wants to be the one world currency, international, this, that, or the other thing. And I think I think people lose sight of the goal here, which is like, you have this technology right in front of you. What are you going to do with it? So I find that perspective really interesting. I think it's very practical. And, I think it'll pay dividends long run, just because, you're not necessarily trying to compete with everybody out there trying to be a currency. You're trying to actually solve a problem. And that's usually like how you end up solving a problem, is you look for it. You don't, it's not the double spend you're trying to solve here. It's already been solved. It's like, how do you leverage blockchain to actually have utility that makes sense for, somebody that might need redundancy in data, for example, or provable functions, and all this other stuff that's really, really important. So I find that really interesting. I think if you talk to a lot of people about like what their perspective is, it's like, oh, we're gonna be the Facebook of Twitter, or the Instagram of Snapchat, and the Eventbrite of Coca-Cola, like whatever that, they just like use two major companies and just try to stick them together. Like, if you could imagine, wait, what if the world was like Snapchat, but also like DocuSign? And you're like, what the fuck did he just, where? I remember like in 2017, there was a guy that was talking about like, I read an article about like proof of space time. I was like, all right, buddy, stop trying to build the continuum token functioner over there and just get back to the basics, like fucking Doc came through 1988, came back in time and he's going to give this guy the answer to the world. And I mean, it's a cool paper. Sure. It's a great concept, but at the end of the day, it's like, how do you get utility out of it? Like, I mean, there's a certain give and take there. It's like, where's your vision going, and then how are you able to get there? And like, if there's no real path to accomplishing something, it becomes a big problem. So it's really impressive that, you know, you guys are taking a metric approach at it, from what I hear. And like, you know, I guess like, yeah, the system usually does represent the developer, right? And if that's really the use case, that's phenomenal. So I mean, kudos for being around so long, kudos for building a network and seeing it through, and kudos for actually having a strategic plan of action that isn't you know, we're trying to beat, you know, this company or that company and trying to be a currency. Like, you know, we're gonna take down the US dollar with you know, this. And I'm like, oh God, please stop.
You know what pisses me off? It's 2017. You had all these projects that, you know, came out, ICOs, collected money, and gave you this, you know, Lamborghini, you know, PDF of their roadmaps and white papers, right? And they're no longer around. And but you do have 2017, you know, projects that came, you know, started in 2017, and they grinded it out without doing an ICO. They just grinded it out and made it to 2020, you know, and those projects deserve a lot of credit. Those projects should be looked at. And those projects didn't switch into DeFi either. You know, when people say DeFi, it's just ridiculous because Bitcoin's DeFi.
It's been around, it's recycling.
Yeah, I mean, like, so we threw out a new cute word called yield, okay, which most people should know, but they acted like, whoa, APY, what's that?
Wow.
Let me get, no. So it's like, right? Like, oh, blown away. But like, at the end of the day, like, the projects I respect are the ones that have been grinding away, you know, especially since 17, when, you know, obviously more people came into the space, more retail buyers came into the space, more people acknowledged blockchain, and obviously wanted to get into digital assets. Projects like, and I'm going to say it, PAC Global have been around here with no ICO, grinding and grinding and grinding away to go ahead and produce an actual working product. So when I go ahead and tweet about something, it's usually an actual working product and not some concept that's really cool if it were ever made. That's, you know, and I feel like if there was more education in our space, which hopefully, obviously, the blockchain center can provide. Okay, you guys go out there. And
sometimes you can't fix stupid, but I get to where you're going. You know,
but like, if the information's out there,
I can't convince some people, but yeah,
I get it. But look, if the information's out there, it makes it easier for the person, right? So at the end of the day, like, we need to have these people look into projects that actually have a real use case to it, and not just even a use case. What is it going to do in the real world? How does it fix a problem? That's what we need. We need more people to look at those projects, and we are one of them. We are one of them. We fix a problem. We fix a problem that is listen, that people put band-aids on. We can legitimately fix it.
Yeah, you really are, you know, you guys are talking about a lot of points, and I'll say this from a personal perspective. You don't have to sell me on the capabilities of P2P networks and file sharing. I mean, that's something that's been proven forever. So like, just trying to create, you know, like, you know, something a little bit different where you have some kind of game theoretical approach, some incentive systems to continue development, innovate, everything like that, just on its merits, you know, from start to finish. When you think about simplicity, you know, hard work, things that really matter, staying around for a long time, that takes, you know, look, you know, what is it, like 90% of businesses fail within their first year, and then like after 10 years, it's like 99% have all been like absorbed or gone or failed. Like, if you look at, you know, different types of companies that stick around through crypto, which has a higher attrition rate, like an even higher one, it's just an impressive feat regardless. So like, you know, I'm sure there's big things in the works. You know, I'm sure there's, you know, exchanges you guys talk to and everything else, like all these buzzwords that everybody wants to hear about. So like, you know, I'm not going to bore you with that stuff, but
no, but
just
that's another thing, Adam. Let's stop you right there. You know, people want to get all excited about a project because, oh my God, they're listed on 18 exchanges. Like, how many exchanges were there for Bitcoin when you were trying to get one? I mean, like the whole exchange topic should just go away with, you know, and I'm saying this to the entire community. It doesn't really matter what exchange you're on. If you really want to get into a project, you'll get into it. Like, you'll find a way to get in. And that's what happens. It's oh, they're listed on 8 exchanges. Oh, they're listed on this exchange, so they must be real, even though they don't have a project or anything. They just have a concept, but they're listed on an exchange, so they must be real. That's where we're stuck, and that's where I go and say that education. We need to educate. We need, and some people are like, I don't need to do anything. No, we need to, as a community, educate the people here, because 95% of them obviously are here to make money. Let's not, fool ourselves. 95% are here. They're not here for the tech. They're here to make gains. Understood.
Yeah.
But if you educate the people here, those 95, I guarantee you 40%, I'm just throwing out numbers probably, but 35 to 40% would actually get into the tech aspect.
Yeah, I think that one of the strongest reasons, the most compelling use cases I got on Bitcoin in the early days is like I read it and it made sense, right? From every perspective. I couldn't poke hole in the logic. I couldn't discount the value of what it built. I couldn't discount. So I felt really comfortable in literally becoming an evangelist and just talking about it, right? So there's other projects I look at and I'm like, wow, their infrastructure sound. And there's projects I don't even like and I'll still say nice things about. Like, I'm like, they're doing all the right things. I mean, they got a development team, they're building things, whether or not, like, whatever it is, like, I'm just saying, like, at the end of the day, Warren Buffett, right? I'm gonna throw this guy in here, but like fundamentals is like all he preaches. There's a reason that guy was one of the richest guys in the world forever. And it's because when he looked at something and he's like, hey, look, this has potential because of A, B, and C. It wasn't like he was arguing things that weren't facts. He's like, look, you have an expert management team. They have, this much of assets. They have this, like, he would just do the balance sheets and try to figure it out. I'm not even talking about a perspective from like an investment perspective. I'm saying like he actually thought the companies were like gonna be a company, which is a function that was gonna, take inputs, create outputs that were higher value, make a profit, and proceed. Like he wasn't like thinking, oh, it's gonna go 40x or 1000x. Like he didn't never look at it like that. He's like, hey, look, if I invest in this company, it's a company and it has a business model, everything works out. Like I'll buy cigarettes. People buy cigarettes, people smoke cigarettes. Like this made sense. He was a Marlboro guy forever. He invested in it, made shit tons of money, right? So like he was less like a speculative investor. He's just like, dude, the money's there. Like, how are you not going to pick it up? Like, if I just sit on it, I win, right? And that's like where we're at in blockchain is like, there's a lot of projects out there that just doing the right things and chugging along, and you can get these flash in the pans and you can jump in. But I don't think it's like, I really don't think it's a matter of overlooking. I don't think it's a matter of anything. I just think it's like, you get people that are particularly risk. They want to seek out risk, and they want that the quick buck. They want this, they want that. And this is something I really preach against. I'm like, if you'd have just held, like, how many people got like liquidated and everything else just screwing around with Bitcoin? If you just bought it at 3K and went up to 22 and just waited a couple of months and worked your day job, like you'd be killing it right now, And I think I was actually on your stream, David, and there was this guy, he's like, man, I sold it or whatever. I felt bad. And I was like, shit, man, that sucks. Like, how are you gonna, like, you can't, like, sometimes, guess what though? Sometimes, sometimes you eat the bear, and well, sometimes the bear eats you, it's like the saying is like, it's like, just, I don't think you have to hack it. I don't think you have to, figure out some, I watch the traders and the Fibonacci's, and I'm like, they never even heard of what Mandelbrot said, like, I'm like, what are you talking about, man? Like, what do you want to talk about, math? You expect me to think that you passed calculus? Like, what are you like, and I'm like looking at the charts, and I'm like, listen, at the end of the day, you can't keep a good project down. You can't keep, good tech down. You can't, like, it speaks on its merits. And when it does something, people use it. So that's like the approach that I like to see in most of the projects that I talk about. I talked about BTFS before anybody was, because like I was a big fan of it. Like, I'm like, oh, you have BitTorrent. That's a reliable technology and it does all these wonderful things now. And now they're going to bridge it over. I don't care about Tron or anything. I'm just talking about BitTorrent. It works, right? So like, there's a lot of interesting things, and it's very curious to hear the perspective of others and why they invest. But 90% of what I hear from people that are participating in your your retail vegetables are literally, oh, it's a moonshot. Like that's not a good argument. Like it just could easily be it could just as easily be a break bottom death point for all of your funds that you put into it, right?
Tech, okay.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, so-
bananas, it's tech.
Yeah,
all right?
crypto moonshots, which is featured on Reddit, right? Where you can go and look up the latest token that was made 5 seconds ago, to go and put in your life savings, and then have the developer pull the entire liquid out of it. Yeah, that's great, but something that Drew has worked on for.
Exactly.
Listen, that's why, again, I go and roll back into the educational aspect of it. Educate this community, and they'll start looking. These are first time investors. Most of these people are first time investors, so yeah, they're gonna go for the moonshot. But at the end of the day, if there is education, they will look at projects such as PAC Global, such as whatever is in the top 100 right now, Ziliqua or Zap or whoever it is. They'll look at these projects and say, okay, they bring something to the table. Let me look into this.
Yeah.
But that's our job to do. If we're going to allow and keep on, encouraging people to say, yeah, go for that. Go for the ultra high risk. Put in your 401ks. Mortgage your house, and go into.
Oh, I think we
Cut out.
we lost David. It's because this stream has been on for.
Now they
12
censored him. He was
hours.
speaking knowledge. He was speaking
Yeah,
truth, and they cut him out.
censored him.
That's what happens. That's what happens. They get him.
We just hit
You
the
know
12-hour mark, David.
That's what happens when you make sense. They censor you, dude. You can't be talking about core values and tech and people working on stuff. And I gotta say this.
What it is, I'm getting frustrated where real projects, honestly, like real projects don't get the amount of shine that these garbage ERC20 tokens get. So that's really like my thing. Like you have, and I'm not saying this because Drew's here. I'd say it if he wasn't here. The dude is probably up like 17 hours a day, along with the rest of the dev team, developing something. I'm sure other projects are doing the same thing. I'm not saying that other projects aren't, but they're sitting there developing something that has a real use case. When is this community finally going to turn around and educate? And there are people that come into the space, they just don't know what they're doing. And you have Crypto Gumby that leads them into the DeFi world. When are we finally going to get rid of Crypto Gumby and have an actual person lead them into the right direction? But that starts with a company like yours, Blockchain Center, that people come in and they tune into, and they're led into, hey, you like this sort of project that protects you and your data? Oh, take a look at PAC Global. So that's what I'm really looking for, the maturity to go ahead and step up a bit.
I will say this, David, after talking with you and Drew, I'm very particular about, hackathons and people that we talk to. Everybody that I talked to today, and they weren't even in the same realm as you. Most of them didn't even have blockchain projects. They were completely blockchain related, but not actually tokens or proof of stake or anything, all of the intricacies that go into it. And the reason that you guys are last, the reason that we're talking right now, in addition to everybody that was talking today, is like, look, the Blockchain Center really wants to align itself with people that are working, willing to show up on stream, talk, and get tested about their technology. I mean, I think I asked a bunch of questions several days ago, and to Justin and everybody else, but I think it's really important that you guys have the opportunities to talk about some of the incredible things that you guys are trying to accomplish, the partnerships, that the willingness to get asked questions about your technology, the willingness to engage, the community that you guys built, the reason that you're being you're still here. These are really hard questions to answer. You're not going to find Crypto Gumby talking about any type of whatever, any type of substantive items or information about other than I got a hot tip from one guy at my barber stand or whatever it is. Who knows? He saw something on a hashtag on Twitter. He's staying up late one night and went to 4chan, whatever the hell it is. Who knows? I don't know how people find out about these things. But
yeah, for sure. I mean, they post it up on there, and everybody goes wild.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I go ahead. I feel like Don King right now, and I feel like Drew's like Mike Tyson, but I'm like, I feel like I'm like literally just campaigning for him. But like, if you put him in the ring with anybody in terms of knowledge, in terms of blockchain, in terms of building something, he will school that ass. I'm telling you right now, like legitimately, he will take. he will be right up there. I've been in meetings where we've talked to other people and they would they're about to go ahead and say something to him and he already knows and he's like, I get it, this is your problem, da 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 da. I'm not that guy, honestly, and I've learned a lot from him. I'm not that guy, but it's interesting and you appreciate people in this space that actually know this space and actually know how to build and understand it and appreciate it. So
yeah, absolutely.
Moment, Drew.
Yeah. I really would like to, have you guys back, get some info about like what's going on, maybe, play around with what you guys got too. I think Eric would definitely be interested in that. We love, I think more than ever, we're students of the game, Eric and I. Like we really like to mess with tech, regardless of what it is, and like try to figure out what we can do. That's basically where Eric and I started, and became friends and everything. It was like we're the only two guys that ever wanted to break anything and see if we could fix it or make it do something, right? So I think that it would be really cool to kind of keep in touch, figure out where you guys are going with it, figure out what PAC Global is doing, and definitely by any means, if there's anybody I can introduce you, anything I can do, more than happy to do so. I'm sure Justin is as well. We think you're both great, and your heads are in the right place for sure. And I mean, I don't need to tell you that, you already know. I mean, the education is important. That's what we preach. The community is important. That's what we preach. Going the long haul, making sure everything is, in place. That's the reason we got people from Mises on earlier and everywhere else. The reason we put these people on is so that the community benefits, so that people understand. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to kind of, sum it up there. And, I hope that everybody in our community takes a good hard look at you guys and see if it's, if it's for them, great. Like you were saying before, if not, so be it. But I think, what you guys are doing is really interesting. I think medical focus and the value lockup, as opposed to trying to be just a currency, which I don't even know if that's sustainable for most projects, but I think that you guys definitely have the capability to do it. If you wanted to, you have all the nodes in the world, and, wallet and everything else, but it's going to be better long term, definitely, for putting the hard work in now is going to pay dividends later when you actually have something that functions. And when that big company calls you up, it's like, hey, anybody know how we can put medical records over here? It's going to be like, oh yeah, we're the only guys that have this. That's usually what happens. It's about readily available, and who has the best, right? And you can't fake practicing kung fu, as they would say. You're gonna get your ass beat. So yeah. You're gonna it seems like your kung fu is strong, and I'm very eager to look more into you guys, and I appreciate you guys coming on on short notice here. We threw this thing together, kind of the Hack the Holidays thing. We got to smash it together, but Gokhshtein came in big and PAC Global came in big and wanted to talk about their stuff, and I was like, great, let's get it going. Or Justin might have done it. I don't remember who did it. It's been so many days and so many hours, but there is one thing I will say. I'm very happy to have chains like yours on that have mission and vision and everything else. So I'll leave it to you guys. Where do we follow you? What do we do? And what am I doing? What's the action item here? We want community members. Where are they going? Where are they going to follow you and everything else, Drew?
Our website, pacglobal.io. That's where we constantly update our news and what we're doing. And then our Twitter handle is PacCoinOfficial, and we constantly are updating that. And then as well as David, his Twitter handle, he keeps people updated regularly as well. So that's something that
he doesn't
throw
tweet
out
that
there.
much though.
That guy's not on Twitter. What are you talking about?
I think that if I stop tweeting, everybody would be like, what happened to him?
Oh yeah, definitely. I come check on you. Come up to New York.
I appreciate you guys having us on.
Yeah, man. No, dude, the pleasure's all on this side. We appreciate you guys coming on. Come on. As a reverse. We need good project like yours out there working on stuff. So thank you so much. And Gokhshtein, Sir David Gokhshtein, always a pleasure, a privilege, and honor to be in the same chat as you. And I think it's big time. I think Gokhshtein Media is doing incredible things, and I'm very happy that you were able to show up and everything. So thank you so much for participating in Hack the Holidays with us, and it's an honor and privilege there.
Thank you for having us on. I appreciate it. PACglobal.io. PACglobal.io.
All right.
don't miss out on your chance, because we're going to be on fire come the new year.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Matt, I believe
Thank you.
that's a wrap. Thank you. And tune in tomorrow.
Absolutely.